let's rank Kyle Shanahan among NFL head coaches right now. Brett, where would you put him?
So I set up a criteria for head coaches and what makes a good one. Right now, if I had to rank him between 5 and 10, conservatively, I believe Kyle Shanahan is a top 5 head coach. Okay, I believe that moving forward. I believe if there was a coach fantasy draft and you were drafting head coaches right now, I think he goes top 5. And that's not based on it's partially based on prior resume, but it's more so it's a projection. Projecting down the road, the next 10 years. I think Sean Payton goes ahead of Kyle Shanahan. I think Andy Reid goes ahead of Kyle Shanahan. I think coaches who are better right now, like Belichick, maybe guys like Carroll, I think because of longevity and age and different things, I think Kyle Shanahan, I think is a top 5 head coach. That's what I think. And I think it's based on projection largely.
Yeah.
His resume can't stack up to guys like Harbaugh and Tomlin, but I would take him ahead of guys like Harbaugh and Tomlin.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, I feel like the reason it's all a projection with Kyle Shanahan because he's only been a head coach for 4 years and he's had 3 losing seasons. I think the reason that most people would agree with you is that he's shown so much. He's shown so much promise. He's obviously brilliant at football. He's definitely a top 5 offensive coordinator. My question, though, is does that make him a top 5 head coach? And this is the way I look at it. Bill Parcells always said you are what your record says you are. And Kyle's a few games under 500, 5 or 6. So I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but that's something he has to reconcile with. And he could say he had bad luck, but I could say, man, you set up a lot of your bad luck. Like you traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. He got hurt in his second start with the Patriots. You drafted Bosa, Debo, and Jalen Hurd. You knew that they're good players with injury histories. You went with that double-edged sword. You traded for D Ford. So a lot of this is, here's what I say. He's great at the details of offense. There might be no one better. Like in terms of like the details of getting a guy open and pass patterns, all that stuff, play action, run designs. He's up there with Andy Reid, Sean Payton. Every coach in America watches Kyle Shanahan stuff and steals from it. And that's quite a compliment. All right. I'm sure Jim Harbaugh does. But head coach isn't a detail guy. Head coach delegates that. It's good. I mean, Bill Walsh could do it all, but a head coach ultimately is responsible for the decisions. And the decision-making and attention to detail couldn't be more opposite. People who are great at the attention to detail stuff, like, Einstein, aren't necessarily the kind of guys you would want running a preschool. You know what I mean? Leadership and organization, creativity and brilliance, two totally different things. Sometimes they intersect. With Kyle, my question is, what is your decision-making capability? Because a lot of times I got a question like your choices in the Super Bowls that you lost, your personnel choices, but still he's like about 41. He has a lot of promise, as you pointed out.
Grant, real quick, let me establish a criteria for what makes a good head coach. I simplified it. Let's go 5 things that the 5 job descriptions for a head coach. Number 1, tactician. Okay. This is game planning. This is play design. This is creativity. This is not on the field. This is in the classroom. This is on the whiteboard. Okay. Mm-hmm. Kyle Shanahan is phenomenal at coming up with a game plan, at identifying opponent weaknesses, and he's very creative offensively. Okay, a tactician. Number 2, you're a teacher. You have to then take it from the whiteboard and apply it. And you have to put that knowledge into 53 grown men's heads, and they have to then apply that to the field. Okay, you're a teacher. You can be really smart up here, but expressing that and teaching that is a totally different skill set. You're a teacher. Number 3, motivator. Locker, presence. You have to be able to command a room. That's something. I think the first 2 things Kyle's pretty good at. The third thing, he's young. That takes some time. Bill Parcells was the best at that. Number 4, and you brought this up. This is where there's a question mark. Game instincts, in-game coaching in real time, game feel, in-game decision. This is where the 2 biggest moments in Kyle Shanahan's career. he has come up short in these areas. There's a question mark here. Guys like, I think of a guy like Gruden. I think of the reason why Sean McVay, who's brilliant, the reason why he lost his Super Bowl was in-game adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't make them. The reason why the Falcons lost the Super Bowl to Belichick was in-game coaching. Belichick is the best at this.
Yes.
Halftime adjustments, in-game coaching, feel of game. That's number 4. You have to be able to do that. Number 5, personnel. There's a question mark there. Kyle's young. Personnel decisions, we'll have to wait and see. That's the 5 criteria. Is that fair?
I think the thing about it is like with quarterbacks and head coaches, it's so much more than 5. I think it's important to list it all. Try to list it all because we need to talk about just overall decision making. That's something I always harp on with quarterbacks and head coaches too, man. Like as an offensive coordinator, you're not really responsible for decisions other than what do I call on 2nd and 7? What do I call on 3rd and 5? For a head coach, it's how hard are we practicing today?
Yeah.
How long are we practicing today? Who's my offensive line coach? Like it's everything, man. It's the schedule. It's the travel. It's so many big picture things. And I think with Kyle, he's so good at his offense. He doesn't want to delegate that. And what he does is he ends up delegating the head coaching jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like Saleh really picked up the slack there. Saleh was the guy who was always talking about how we play, the slogans, the violence, the speed. I mean, that's part of a head coach. It's not just this X's and O's. It's not just that. It's the whole philosophy and how we do it. And I don't know that I just haven't seen that from Kyle yet, but it's a great opportunity. He's still young. Maybe he's been doing it in the background and Robert Saleh's been getting too much credit. I guess we'll see now because it's hard to expect D'Amico Ryans to be that kind of a leader. It's got to be Kyle.
Yeah.
Leadership. I'm talking about leadership. That's the thing. Leadership.
Correct.
Like North Turner.
This is
why have these offensive coordinators failed in the past? The ones that are good offensive coordinators and bad head coaches, what is it about them? Their leadership, their lack of ability to relate to people, young men.
Correct. And that's an innate skill set. That's not something I don't even know if you learn that. That locker room presence, walk into a room full of alphas and command them and hold their attention and instruct them. And when you have to coach them hard. Parcells was the best ever. Belichick is going to go down as the GOAT. Belichick has won in one place for 20 years, and that entire time he won with one quarterback. Parcells went to a bunch of different teams, and Parcells was a team builder. The greatest skill set Parcells had was his ability. He was a brilliant football mind, but he was brilliant at people, at relationships.
Yes.
He knew, here's a quote by Parcells. Parcells said, "I never believed in treating everybody the same." Okay, there's not a blueprint for how to coach a player and all players. You have to understand that human. Parcells was a motivator unlike any other. There's a whole bunch of stories of Parcells motivating people.
And one more thing about Parcells before we change the subject, because people get restless that we're not talking about the Niners locker room. So, okay, we'll get to the Niners locker room, and we got that for you, baby. What I want to say about Belichick, people don't give him credit for this. He's a defensive coach. He developed Brady. He had a young quarterback.
Yeah.
And say what you want, Brady worked out. He sat on the bench for a year when he played. He won a Super Bowl as a first-year starter. Belichick gets credit for that. Kyle still needs to nurture and bring along a young quarterback, and now he's got his opportunity.